All right, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Diabetes Talk. I'm your host, Charlie O'Connell. We are broadcasting live and direct from the GlucoseZone studios here in New Haven, Connecticut. I want to do a huge shout out to everybody who just joined us for that GlucoseZone workout and everybody who's already joined us for this Diabetes Talk. Mark, Jeanette, Deleslin, Tara, I see you guys. It is great to have you here. Also want to do a shout out to everyone who's joining us on Facebook and Instagram, joining us live and direct through my phone. Guys, tonight's topic is going to be a really fun topic. We're going to be talking about celebrating Valentine's Day with your loved ones, having success, managing diabetes, and talking about some of the things that can be hard to talk about, your sex life with diabetes, and basically having a fun and fulfilling Valentine's Day, okay? So, I am welcoming any and all questions tonight, and I'm hopeful, guys, that this can be a really, really fun and engaging conversation about Valentine's Day and diabetes. And Lauren, I see you on Instagram. It is great to have you here, okay? And with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. So, sometimes, let's start off with kind of the easy things to talk about, and then we can get into the more challenging and maybe even more a little sensitive subjects. So, the first thing I want to talk about is Valentine's Day is a emotional holiday, and it can be a food-based holiday, okay? So let's talk about the food-based holiday first. If you are celebrating Valentine's Day with a loved one and you have diabetes or your loved one has diabetes, there are plenty of Valentine's Day gifts and foods that you can give or receive that are okay for your diabetes. And we want to give you some examples of those. So let's start off with dark chocolate. Generally speaking, dark chocolate is much, much, much healthier for you than milk chocolate, and it has a way less of an impact on your glucose levels. All right? And that's an easy thing that basically you can replace. All right? Now, the reason why dark chocolate is better for you, and this is something that's important to understand, is that number one, dark chocolate is much richer in antioxidants. Okay? It's lower in fat than milk chocolate. All right? The other thing is defining basically what dark chocolate is, okay? So dark chocolate is 72% or higher in terms of cocoa content. And cocoa content is actually what makes chocolate, okay? So if you are giving chocolates, if you are receiving chocolates, you want those chocolates to be dark chocolate. Now, something that is a really, really amazing gift is strawberries in dark chocolate, or strawberry fondue, okay, which is basically strawberries that are dipped into dark chocolate. It's an amazing gift. It is something that is delicious, and believe it or not, it actually has a relatively very, very low impact on your diabetes. And the reason why that is, and this is important to understand, is that berries, generally speaking, berries are fruits that are lower on the glycemic index. Okay, so remember what the glycemic index is an expression of time, the amount of time that a food takes to become glucose in your blood. And berries in general are low on the glycemic index. So when I say berries, I mean strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries. All of those berries are great gifts that you can give or receive related to diabetes, okay? And will have a minimal or will have a lower impact on your glucose level than other gifts. And definitely you want to stay away from candies, right? And this is a little bit obvious, but giving food as a gift on Valentine's Day can be a positive thing if the food that you're giving is basically within the context of safe and effective diabetes management and is respectful of you or your person's need for that, okay? Now, the second thing is, okay, and this again food-based, is if you're going out for a date, pick a restaurant that is healthy and that promotes healthy food. So my wife and I were going out for dinner tomorrow night. We picked out a restaurant that we really like, and the reason why we like that restaurant is because it offers really, really healthy entrees that taste delicious. And generally speaking, finding restaurants that are delicious and nutritious should always be your goal. But if you're doing that for Valentine's Day, I want you to embrace that as something that can really, really be a positive experience for you and your partner. All right? Now, several people have joined us. I want to say what's up to. DeLeslin has joined us. Donnie Ray is here, back at it again. Donnie Ray, it is great to have you here. Okay? We've got several people who have joined us on Instagram. We've got the Diabetes Whisperer. We've got Arsima joining us all the way from Ethiopia. That's awesome. Arsima, it is great to see you here. Okay? And on Facebook, all right, we've got several people joining us. Donna McVeigh, it is great to see you here. Okay? Donna, guys, is one of the people that I have worked with in the past, going way, way, way back to when I was first getting started. Okay, Donna, it is great to have you here on Facebook and joining us. Okay, now, the second part, guys, of an activity on Valentine's Day, it is not necessarily food related. Okay, and what I mean by that is, there are so many great, cool things that you can do on Valentine's Day that are physically good for you. So let's just talk about what that means, right? So, if you are going on a date for Valentine's Day, the date doesn't just have to be dinner and a movie, okay? The date could be going for a walk. The date could be renting bikes, okay? The date could be going kayaking. The date could be going to the beach, depending on where you are, okay? The date could be going to an activity, right, that basically you're up and about. Now, those are some of the most fun dates is when you're doing something with a person. Let's talk about managing your diabetes during that. So, many people living with diabetes struggle with and have trouble with dating. And there is a reason for that. And what it is, and I personally struggled with this, and I now have worked, especially with a lot of young people, where they feel really, really self-conscious of our diabetes. And it can be really hard if you like somebody, if you're going on a date for the first or second or third time, it can be really hard to share with that person that even sometimes it can be hard to share with them that you have diabetes. But then it can also be hard to share with them that you may not be able to do certain activity. You may need to make adjustments to that activity, okay, because of your diabetes. And I totally understand that whole dynamic, that whole emotional dynamic of when you don't want to share about your diabetes. In fact, it's probably the last thing that you want to talk about. And I totally get it. Because ultimately, if you're on a date, why would you want to talk about something about yourself that you don't like? And that is the reality of living with diabetes, is that there's nobody who wants to have diabetes. Not a single person wants to have diabetes, right? And sharing that, and the second part of that is that many times people can feel they can feel ashamed about it, that's not healthy, and there's no reason why you should feel ashamed, but nonetheless, people can have that feeling. You can feel embarrassed about it. You can feel some sort of weakness or vulnerability about it. And, sharing what you feel vulnerable about can be really, really hard. And, the way that I was having a conversation one time with a person about this very subject, and the person asked me, he said, well, why is it so hard to share about diabetes? Okay? And so here's the answer that I gave them. I want you to imagine that you are on a first date and you have really smelly feet, right? And that's something that you don't like about yourself. What you don't like about yourself is that you have really, really smelly feet. And then I want you to imagine that that's the first thing that you tell the person that you're going on a date with, right? You say, hi, I'm Charlie, I have smelly feet, okay? Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to share something to a person that they like or they love, or basically they're trying to impress, that they don't like about themselves, okay? That is a very unnatural thing to do. So I totally get it. Having said that, diabetes has a really, really frustrating way of making itself known. And it's very important that you are open and honest with your partner or with your date or whoever that, you're living with diabetes. And that can be in the form of communication, but that can also be in the form of food selection, activity selection. All right? So these are really, really important things, guys, to think about, to talk about, to ensure that you're going to have a positive experience. All right? Now, some other great examples of activities that you can do on Valentine's Day are ice skating, which I love that example, right? And especially we're watching the Winter Olympics right now. Ice skating can be super fun. It can be romantic, okay? You could do something like bowling, which is really, really fun, okay? Going to a arboretum or a public garden, which there are some amazing, amazing botanical gardens in the cities around the country. In particular, there are 3 that come to my mind that I've been to recently. The Brooklyn Botanical Garden, the San Francisco Botanical Garden, the Philadelphia Botanical Garden. Those are all places that I've personally been to that are really, really amazing. Another activity that you can do is you can go to a museum, okay? And guys, these are things that are fun things to do that for a date, they're activity-based, and they take the pressure off of food, basically the date surrounding food. All right? Now, those are just some general suggestions about how to basically have a happy Valentine's Day, living with diabetes, okay? Giving yourself the gift of health, sharing with your partner that something healthy and positive and fun, all right? It's also acknowledging that diabetes can be really hard to talk about. It can be something that you don't want to share about, you don't feel like sharing about, and the reasons for that are apparent to me, right? But I guarantee you, if you are feeling awkward about, let's say you don't want to share about your diabetes up front, you know what's way more awkward than sharing about your diabetes up front? What's way more awkward is having a hypoglycemic attack during an activity. And now you're really in this embarrassing, awkward position of having to tell this person, right? They don't know what's going on. You haven't shared with them, and now things can spiral out of control very, very quickly in a potentially very dangerous way. And ultimately, it can cause lack of trust. It can cause people to feel weird. It can cause basically people to pull back, okay? And we don't want that. That's not what we're looking for, right? So as hard as it is to share about your diabetes up front, ultimately it is much less awkward to share about your diabetes up front than to have some sort of diabetes related issue occur and the person you're on a date with not being aware of it. Okay? All right. Now, let's get into the more sensitive things, right? And let's talk about how diabetes can affect your sex life, because Valentine's Day is about going on a date. It is about basically being intimate, okay? So, let's start on the male side. So, diabetes can affect your sex life primarily in two ways, okay? Rapid changes in your glucose levels can affect your anxiety level and, to be perfectly straightforward, your performance in the bedroom. And the reason why that happens is if your glucose levels are rapidly going up or going down, that's going to cause circulation issues. That's going to cause changes to your heart rate, okay? And when you're in an intimate situation, you may already be experiencing changes to your heart rate. That can throw that off and basically cause a malfunction, a dysfunction, or a general uncomfortable feeling, okay? The second thing is that if you have chronic high blood sugar levels, that will definitely affect your sexual performance, your sexual capacity, and literally the circulation in the areas that you need to have circulation. So, and this is one of the most sensitive topics. It actually really, really never gets talked about when we're talking about diabetes, because it's kind of an embarrassing topic, okay? But nonetheless, it's a really, really important topic. So if you are experiencing anything sexually, any problems related sexually that are related to your diabetes, that's something that you really, really need to talk with your doctor about. And there are solutions, okay, that you can use to address that situation. Now, those solutions could range from a prescription of medication to a prescription of exercise. And, we talked about this last time we did a diabetes talk. The side effects of exercise, okay, directly improve your sex life. The side effects of exercise directly improve your stamina, your endurance, your muscularity, how you perform, okay, both in life, in bed, and everywhere in between. So I really want to encourage you, and I'm coming from the male side at this point, getting daily activity, okay, is really, really a fundamental and important thing. Now, the other thing is, there is a correlation between low testosterone and high insulin levels. And this is an extremely important relationship that you need to be aware of. If you are a man and you are suffering from low testosterone, there's probably a high likelihood that you also have insulin resistance and that you have something called hyperinsulinemia. Hyperinsulinemia means too much insulin. So those things go hand in hand: low testosterone, insulin resistance. We want to reverse that. We want to bring up our testosterone levels and lower the insulin levels. And the only way that you do that is through consistent exercise, okay, and then food consumption that does not require high amounts of insulin. So I'm going to give you examples of those types of foods. And we talk about this all the time. We talk about green juicing. We talk about the value of dark green leafy vegetables in general. We talk about lean meats, things like chicken, turkey, tuna, salmon, foods that have a very low insulin requirement. If you consume those foods and you exercise, you are going to start to change that dynamic, okay? You're going to start to change the dynamic of low testosterone and high insulin, and you're going to start to make a change in the cause and effect there. And ultimately, the higher you can bring your testosterone levels up, okay, the more sexually healthy you're going to be, the better you're going to feel, and basically, the more positive experience you're going to have. All right? So that is real talk, okay? That is real talk about how diabetes can impact your sex life, and specifically coming from the male point of view. All right? Now, we've got a lot of people on Instagram, which is awesome. I want to say what's up to Nikia, okay? What's up to Joan? I see you. Okay, Kaiser, I see you too. It is great to have you guys here on Instagram. And we've got a lot of people on YouTube, but funny enough, the chat and the questions have gone a little silent, which, you know what, I think is related to this subject. This is a very, very sensitive subject, okay, that it actually really is important that we talk about it. Now, let's talk about this from the female perspective, okay? And there is a great, great website, okay, that it's called 6 Until Me. And it's a blog of a woman, okay? It's a blog of a woman who has type 1 diabetes, and she talks real talk. She talks about the challenges of sex. She talks about the challenges of wearing a pump, okay, as a woman. And she's got a great, great, kind of funny way of talking about it. She says, when you're having sex or when you're basically making out, what do you do with your pump, right? And that's a really, really great, funny question, okay? But it's real. And these are the types of things, right, that ultimately can really, really impact your ability to have a fun and passionate Valentine's Day, all right? So, now, let's talk specifics about sexual dysfunction in women, and I want to encourage all the women out there, okay? I know that this is a sensitive subject. It doesn't get talked about very much, but there are some great there are some great resources out there. So I'm just going to keep talking real talk about this, right? So the first thing is actually understanding physically how diabetes can impact your sex life from a female perspective, all right? And basically, diabetes, okay, can cause sexual problems because of the tissue and nerve supplies of a woman's sexual organs being affected by high blood glucose levels, okay? And what basically that means is that a women's sexual organs have a ton of blood, right? Very, very high blood supply, and the nerve endings can be damaged by those high blood sugar levels. So it can affect feeling, it can also affect the actual performance of the organs, okay? The other thing that can impact women is depression that's associated with diabetes. So generally speaking, depression, there's a higher incidence of depression for people living with diabetes. There's a higher incidence of depression for women living with diabetes. And if you're experiencing rapid changes in your glucose levels, that can really, really wreak havoc, okay, on your sexual organs, on your willingness and ability to have sex and basically be in the mood, all right? And that's real, okay? That can lead to pain during intercourse. That can lead to all kinds of problems, okay, related to sex and having an enjoyable experience, all right? So these are real talk, guys. These are things that really don't get talked enough about. There are some tremendous resources out there that talk very specifically about these issues. If you just literally Google sex and diabetes, you'll come back with a whole, literally thousands and thousands of tips, articles that basically talk about this issue. All right? All right, let me just stop right there. Let me say what's up to Tristan, who has joined us, Nakia, who's joined us on Instagram, Jackie, who has joined us, okay, on YouTube. Jackie, it's great to have you here. And Naveed and Hope, it is great to have you guys here on Facebook in the GlucoseZone, all right? And I'm really hopeful, guys, that talking about these things inspires you, gives you the opportunity to acknowledge it yourself, number one, inspires you to go find information. Because here's the thing. When it comes to love life and your diabetes, there's a general rule, right? It's never as bad as you think it might be. And that is that's a very common thing that is just human nature when you're talking about a sensitive subject. And basically, when you're talking about a sensitive subject and you don't really want to know what the answer is because you're scared of the answer, okay? We tend to assume the worst, all right? And we don't want to do that. We want to be very informed exactly of what the risks are, okay? Exactly what the solutions are that we can take to address our problems, all right? And I want to do a huge shout out to Naveed. Okay, Naveed, it is great to have you here. Just got an awesome message from Naveed saying he's celebrating Valentine morning all the way from Pakistan. Okay, that's awesome, Naveed. It is great to have you here. Valentine's Day has already started for some people. It's awesome, Naveed, that you are joining us here and joining this conversation. All right? I think we're going to end on that note, guys. Unless you have some very specific questions that we're happy to address right now, I want to encourage you, have a great Valentine's Day. Talk with your partner about doing, or your date or your partner or whatever. Talk to them about a positive experience. And remember, when it comes to diabetes, a positive experience means three things. It means healthy food, it means activity, and it means acknowledgement of reality, okay? And if those three things can happen, you have a much better chance of having a fun, successful, and happy Valentine's Day. And on that note, guys, we are going to sign off. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day, and we will see you in the next GlucoseZone live workout.